The company's audited 2025 account revealed billions of cedis in debt, losses and unpaid receivables. We'll examine the figures behind ECG's financial challenges and what that mean for possible reforms. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Now, despite the government's decision to reduce the pump price of diesel by some 2 Ghana cedis per litre, some commercial drivers say the reduction is too small to make any meaningful difference to their operating costs. Many say they do not intend to reduce transport fares, arguing that the cut will have little impact on their daily expenses. Let me remind you that this reduction came in yesterday when we had the NPA CEO announcing on his socials that the government had decided to intervene, and subsequently we had a statement coming from the presidency confirming that it's supposed to last for a period of 1 month. This will be the second time that the government would intervene in terms of reducing fuel prices for consumers. So let's hear some drivers earlier telling us that they were not too enthused about the 2 Ghana cedi reduction.
It's directed
from Adenta to a friend is second to Adenta no na yeje 10 cedi and obeti so called 8 cedis 50 pesos and not fuel no so from 14 cedis 99 pesos no to 12 cedis 98 pesos. So what I say, but say no. For na sa kwa 17 cedis it's not fair.
And say come per say heading.
Is it I said for number go back to 12 cedis 98 pesos and now say you take our fare back.
But I say the say na yati so no mo bet a fair so and amount fair so.
No, I don't see the reason why we should reduce the fare again.
Medase on akasa. So there you had Mr. Ofori there.
Ina mahuse yati so.
Now, who want to say?
Madam, very poor. Very poor. Due to the fact that, say, driver for, yeni kama for, and I say, yenfa PhD, and I say degree in Chicano. Doesn't tell, say, we don't have value. We have value, an absolute value. Say, on my way, I beko anymore. Unti mi driver for any for yin film. That don't me a film. Didn't want me a film. Obi Ododowa, or ya Benjamin Wakra. From Dodowa to Accra, unti mi chata Uber and Famba. A trotro driver the fan. By trotro driver Crona, so no, and I am didn't I am under administration of NPP, and another Mr. President Mahama Bayo Betty so full and so no. Now, we are 16, Nanado Konujan 16, and Mr. Mahama, Betty is over 13. And obedi that say your transportation by 15%. But look at this. What if 15% no? Full and no increments no? Or the above 4 times. Even last week or two times. But 1 peso across to transportation so that's very poor. A very poor part.
And you had some drivers obviously not satisfied with a 2 cedi reduction in every litre of diesel bought. Let's speak to Richmond Roxon. He speaks for the Ministry of Energy. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Good afternoon to you.
What's your reaction to how the drivers are reacting to the 2 cedi reduction in every litre of diesel?
I share in their sentiment and understand why they will raise concerns. Of course, if you enjoyed stable fuel prices, where this government took it from about 16 Ghana cedis to at a point where it went below 10 Ghana cedis, and then suddenly, by virtue of geopolitics and external factors, you are now having to pay about 17 Ghana cedis. Obviously, you will not be happy. But these are difficult times. The government recognizes that fuel plays an important part in our lives, and he has taken the decision to intervene by 2 cedis. Hitherto, in the past, we didn't see any intervention from previous administration. But this time around, of course, because the government recognizes it, and that's why the intervention has been made.
You continue to do that?
We'll continue to monitor the global factors. You know that when it comes to fuel prices, there are factors that determine what the pump price will be. You have the crude oil, you have the finished product, you have CD, and then you have taxes and margins. For the last two, government has some control. The first two, government does not have any control. Price of crude on the international market, and then prices of finished product. As we speak, price of finished product as compared to the February price have gone up by over 100%. We're doing about $600, $700 per metric ton. Today you are doing almost 1,000, 3,400 per metric ton. And so you've seen significant increase in prices. For the exchange rate, the government has managed the exchange rates well. The government took it from originally about 16 Ghana cedis. Today it's averaging around 11 Ghana cedis. And so you've seen improvement. And of course, the taxes and margins are what governments use for distribution and the margin for market and co. And so for those ones, that's what government is sacrificing to cushion consumers. So it shows you that what government has in its control, of course, he's done something about it. But what is beyond government, that will be difficult for all of us. But we'll continue to monitor the international market and hope that we'll see improvement.
Mr. Roxon, beyond the argument of whether or not this is enough, is also the bit about how sustainable this is. Does the government have to come in all the time? This is the second time that you've come in. People are asking how sustainable that is.
Actually, this is the third time. The first one, the government intervened by 0.26 pesos on petrol and then 2 cedi on diesel. The second time, government intervened with 1 cedi on diesel, and then this will be the third time.
The concern being that your interventions undermine Ghana's deregulated petroleum pricing regime. How do you respond to that?
No, it doesn't undermine that. The deregulation simply means that the market will determine the prices. Market factors will determine the prices. What the government has done is that once the prices are determined, the government cushions by supporting. So it's not as if the government is regulating the market by controlling prices or setting prices. That's not what government is doing here. The market determines the prices, and then the government intervenes by cushioning the OMCs and consumers of what the price should have been. So as we speak, for example, yesterday, Star Oil was doing about 19 Ghana cedis for diesel. After the cushioning, it comes to 17 Ghana cedis. The government will take care of the differentials of 2 Ghana cedis through the NPA. And so government is not regulating the market at all.
But again, there's also the concern, for instance, coming from the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, which thinks that government's priority now should be a strategic fuel reserve instead of the periodic price interventions. You confirm of a third one right now.
No, I agree with COPEC. Government has been working round the clock when it comes to strategic reserves. One of the things government has been doing to ensure that Temario refinery works, as well as the local refinery, seem to be in fact for the first time in the history of our republic, government assigned Ghanaian crude from Ghana's Jubilee field to a private entity central to refine for the benefit. Done the same for Tema Oil Refinery. In 2016, President Mohamed he did the same. And so that's one of the policies to make sure that once you refine locally, you guarantee supply, and then you also take part of the cost that ordinarily you would have incurred if you were bringing the products from international waters. For example, one of the concerns in this industry at this point has to do with freight cost. Before the war, freight was under $20. Today, freight is over $100. If you take out freight costs by empowering local refineries, you can imagine the impact. Beyond that, the president has given a directive that the power itself has plans of moving from 28,000 barrels a day to 45,000 barrels a day by adding the RFCC, that is the residual fuel catalytic cracker. And then the president has also given a directive to expand the capacity of the refinery to 100,000. He's asked the energy minister to give him a work plan. So that should tell you that we are dealing with a problem domestically. And also, together with the private sector, the government is ensuring that you have enough reserves. So TOR, for example, is going to increase its storage. BOST is doing the same. you have private entities that are also ensuring that they also increase their capacity. That will help the reserve stock program to ensure that.
And these measures you're giving us, are they medium or these are long-term measures you're outlining to me now?
No, long-term. These immediate measures. The refinery is working now.
And the long-term?
The assignment of crude to Sintu was 2 months ago. Paul received his own last month, and that program will continue. So that is being done. In the medium term, of course, you will continue the medium to long term. You will continue the expansion work of the refinery to get to 100,000. And Sintu also finishes with its phase 2, which they've commissioned already. They've cut salt for, and expected to be commissioned in less than 2 years. What we mean is that we'll have 200,000 barrels a day capacity. That will take care of about 70 to 80% of the local market.
We'll have to end it. We'll have to end
medium to long term.
We'll have to end it here. But thank you very much, Mr. Roxon, for speaking to us.
Thank you very much.
Richmond Roxon there. He speaks for the Energy Ministry, and we stay a bit longer on energy-related matters because now the government considers greater private sector participation in the Electricity Company of Ghana. ECG's audited 2025 account reveal the scale of the financial burden any reform must confront. Nearly 7 years after the collapse of the PDS concession, ECG is still carrying an unpaid 3.7 billion CD receivable linked to PDS, while years of payment shortfalls and legacy debts continue to weigh heavily on the company. Let's break it down a bit further. My colleague Wisdom Safo joins me in the studio with some details. Wisdom, what more can you tell us?
So Beatrice, it's a lot of people are concerned about ECG's position, especially at the point where there's a talk about private sector participation. So the first headline figure will be ECG's position. If you are talking about a company's position, it's a difference between its assets and liabilities. So as it stands, almost everything ECG owns is financed by liabilities. So it has a total asset of about 82.75 billion Ghana cedis and liabilities of 82.32 billion Ghana cedis. So if you subtract it, though it's have positive, they're having a positive equity of 438 million. The liabilities constitute about 99.5% of its entire asset. Almost every asset it owns are being financed by liabilities, and it's not a good thing.
Break it down a bit further for us when you say that, because you've just done the deductions and it seems to be on the positive end. So when you say these assets are financed by liabilities, how do you mean?
So it means you want to know as a company where you stand. If you evaluate or put value to whatever you own as a company, that becomes your assets. Okay, and you take out maybe the loans that you've taken, the amount of people, money or asset that are with you that you have to give back. So those
are normally loans and things you don't own.
That you don't own. Those are the liabilities. If you take them out, that's what will determine your financial position. After deducting, ECG has positive, but it is 99.5%. I mean, the liability is 99% of its assets, which is not good for any company in its standing.
As you're aware, there have been conversations about the privatization of the Electricity Company of Ghana. We've had, especially those who work within the sector, protesting against it because they think the ECG has positive outlook, like you just said. How then, or where then would you fit the argument about why there's a need for a private investor or not?
So you have to look into the numbers, and you have to narrow it down to their receivables, their collections, and the losses. So, Beatrice, in 2025, ECG had a revenue of about 22.11 billion Ghana cedis, but the cost of sale, or the cost of generating all this power and selling them, it was about 34.77 billion Ghana cedis. So in all, they made a gross loss. Gross means without the deduction of taxes, right? A gross loss of 12.66 billion Ghana cedis. And if you look at the reasons for these losses, one of them was customers are not paying their bills. That's when the privatization conversation comes in. That if it is privatized, a lot of analysts are saying that if we privatize ECG, the collections will improve. Because if you look at the people owing ECG, 10.65 billion Ghana cedis are owed by private customers, and 1.58 billion Ghana cedis are owed by government. That's the ministries, departments, and agencies as well.
It used to be the opposite.
Actually, it used to be the same.
Okay.
Because mostly, looking at the customer base, a lot of customers. So even if it is one city, because there are many, if you calculate it, it's usually higher than that of the government.
Because there was a time Parliament went off and a few other government agencies went off.
I saw
and
a
the
video
concern was that they
yeah.
owed more than the ordinary Ghanaian did.
Yes. So if you single out an ordinary Ghanaian, then compare it to the government, they owe more. But collectively, the ordinary citizens owe more to ECG than the government. But there's one thing that I have to put on record. That had to do with the PDS. So you realize that we have over 3.7 billion Ghana cedis sitting on ECG's books, and these losses are way back. We can track back as far as 2019, where we had the PDS. So PDS made some losses, they made some commitments, there were some debts, but these debts had been carried forward.
But the PDSD was already abrogated.
Yes, it was abrogated, but the debts are still there.
Okay.
Yes, they are still sitting on the books.
Where did the debt come from?
It's some of them come from procurement, some of them come from loans. Usually it's debt financing. So mostly you run fiscal deficit. Maybe you need certain assurances from these banks or grants to finance your operation. And while you finance your operation, you know that you have to pay all these debts back.
So
but if you're not able to pay, you carry it forward, you keep on carrying it forward, you keep on restructuring those debts, and it will still be sitting on your books.
Do I get the understanding that perhaps we did a wrong thing when we abrogated the PDS deal because we're still paying debt on it and not getting anything from it?
Actually, PDS, if you look at the financial, their collections were higher. Until recently, where 2025, the ECG's books became very lucrative in terms of collectables, or they started following the cash waterfall mechanism. Collection was bad for ECG according to the numbers. But 2024, 2025, collection had improved. But there are other things that they are committing to in terms of operational costs and operational losses that they have to block those holes as well. Because if you are getting more revenue and there are still leakages, you are going back to square one. And that's what the numbers are saying, Beatrice.
What more can you tell us before you take leave of us?
So I would say that if any private sector participation is to be considered, we have to look beyond just collectables. We have to look at how are we going to solve the long-standing debts of ECG. Actually, even if you look at the numbers, you realize that forex gain softened the financial loss. Okay, so actually the operating loss was around 14.35 billion Ghana cedis, and they made a forex gain of about 12.16 billion Ghana cedis. So if there were not this forex, just by the change in the exchange rate dynamics, they were able to make some gains from that. If this were not there, the losses would have been way higher. So we should look beyond just the PSP. We should look at how we will tackle our long-term energy sector debt. You remember last year, we introduced the 1 cedi fuel levy just to augment the energy sector in this regard. So that's my final take on.
All right, thank you very much. Wisdom Safo, he is with our research desk. A major fire has broken out at the Tema industrial area, destroying a rubber recycling warehouse and factory. The blaze, which started shortly after midnight, drew firefighters from 4 different fire stations as emergency crews worked through the night to prevent it from spreading to nearby facilities. Although the fire has largely been contained, firefighters remain at the scene carrying out salvage and overhaul operations. The incident has also left some firefighters injured after part of the building's roof reportedly caved in during the operation. Hopefully we'll be able to get the fire service to bring us an update as regards what's happening there. Now, residents and community leaders of Kobo are threatening peaceful demonstrations over what they call severe administrative dysfunction at the Kobo Nursing Training College. Addressing the media on Monday, the stakeholders urged the Ministry of Health to intervene, appoint interim management, order a forensic audit into mandatory fees and the immediate reopening of the school following the recent student unrest. Let's listen to Isaac Jan, who is a community representative for the area.
Sustainable peace can only be achieved by addressing the underlying issues through an independent, transparent, and impartial investigation. Now, here are the key issues. Alleged excessive centralization of administrative authority, weak stakeholder consultation, and poor institutional governance, alleged intimidation, verbal abuse, disrespectful treatment within the courage community, failure to supply uniforms, textbooks, home visiting bags, and other compulsory items despite payment made. Poor feeding services despite approved feeding fees, including inadequate meals, poor food quality, and delays in food services. Deteriorating hotels, facilities, poor sanitation, inadequate lighting, flooding, and security concerns. Declining staff morale resulting from concerns about staff welfare and working conditions. Poor communication and inadequate stakeholder engagement. These concerns are serious and deserve a thorough and impartial and transparent investigation. This is our position as a community. We acknowledge the responsibility of government and the Ministry of Health to maintain peace, discipline, and order within public institutions. However, the temporary closure of the current cannot be regarded as lasting solution to the issues confronting them.
And you heard there Isaac John. He's a community rep for the Krobo area. Let's return to our earlier story about the fire outbreak within the Tema industrial area. I'm joined on the line now by Alex King-Nate. He is with the PR department of the Ghana National Fire Service. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Beatrice. Glad to be here.
First of all, just tell us how extensive this fire is.
So the fire was quite extensive, but I would say that the salvaging was much more extensive. Obviously, whenever there's a fire, there'll be some level of damage, and in this case, some of the damage includes some of the finished rubber products and takeaways that they had produced. Some of their industrial machines also got burnt, and then also other raw materials that they used in their production was also burnt. Those were some of the extent of the damage that we recorded.
I understand that the fire happened at a warehouse. Is that right?
Yes, it serves as both a warehouse and a factory.
At the moment, tell us to what extent you've been able to contain the fire.
Fortunately, we received a call around 12:40, or we responded to the call around 12:40 at midnight, and we quickly got to work. By 2:40, we were able to put the situation under control. So as I've said on this platform several times, under control doesn't mean that the fire has been extinguished. It just means that the fire is out of danger and has been contained from further spread. But as at this morning, 6 a.m., we were able to successfully extinguish the fire totally, despite injury to one of the fire, an extensive injury to one of the firemen. But the salvage was more. There was a 7-unit apartment block on that same compound. We were able to prevent the fire from getting to it. We were able to also contain the fire from getting to the administrative block. There were other adjoining structures and warehouses, including an Indomie warehouse very close by. Our men worked hard to make sure that the fire was contained from spreading to some of these unaffected property.
Might be early days yet, but are you able to give us preliminarily what might have caused this fire?
It's difficult to pinpoint one thing that might have caused this fire. Mind you, it's a warehouse and it's a factory. It runs industrial machines like that require a lot of electricity. Again, the items in there, the takeaway parts, we know how highly flammable and combustible they are. We know how highly flammable and combustible the plastic materials or the rubbers also are, and even its raw materials, the chemicals used. And so it could be anything from electrical to negligence somewhere, or it could be anything. So it will be difficult to pinpoint one particular thing. But as a service, we are not leaving any stone unturned in our investigation to get to the actual cause of the fire.
Now, you mentioned that your fire officer sustained injury. Well, first of all, asking you two questions in one, how is he responding to treatment? Hopefully it wasn't that grievous. And number two, is that the only injury that happened within this fire outbreak?
Yes, so the firefighter, the injury was quite extensive. Some of the blocks from the wall came down on his head. He was in helmet, and so the impact was mitigated slightly. But then again, it caused quite an extent. The shock from the distance, mind you, it's a warehouse and a factory, and so it's a high ceiling. And so you can imagine a block coming down from that side, falling on his head. And so we initially rushed him. He went unconscious. We rushed him to the Tema Polyclinic, where he was later referred to the Tema General Hospital. He's been resuscitated, and we are closely monitoring him to make sure that he comes back to join us very soon.
All right, we'll have to end it here. Sorry, before you go though, how long are your men going to be there until you're very sure that the fire is completely extinguished?
Oh, so we've left the place. After this morning, when we finished fighting the fire around 6, we left one of our fire tenders to be on standby in case of reignition. As at 6, we had extinguished everything. So we just left one fire tender on standby in case of reignition. But as at this time, we were asked before getting back to you online like this, we were able to make sure that there was no room for reignition of the fire. So now we return back. Mind you, we have just one fire tender at every station, and so we can't keep one fire tender also somewhere for too long, because then it needs to be back to serve that area or the community.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Mr. Alex Kingnate, for speaking to us.
You're welcome, madam.
Alex Kingnate speaks for the Ghana National Fire Service. Now, momentum is building for the Nkokon Kitinkiti program, and Suaman Dadieso is proving it works. 5 months after getting their birth, beneficiaries have presented the first batch of eggs. The District Assembly has handed over 10 crates to the Dadieso Senior High School, but there is an urgent call for the establishment of poultry feed production plants to guarantee the program's long-term sustainability. From the Western North region, Rama Smith put together this report for us.
And eat all. Remember the backlash when some people ate their Nkokon Kitinkiti birds? In Suaman Dadieso, it is a different story. 5 months ago, 200 people got layers and cockerels. Today, the beneficiaries have pulled their first eggs and donated them to the District Assembly. Juliana Kofi, a trader, is one.
Saa akụkọ nkịtịnkịtị na wodi abano meyebi mfaso wo so pa meka say memfa se busumi numuni ma sisa nkosu abe se 10 crate nti ma hwe se eboa pa nti onka ye ho na omo aye na yentimi nyankwa ye nim.
Suaman Dadieso District Chief Executive Vasco Obo, while presenting the crate of eggs to the Dadieso Senior High School, reaffirmed the Assembly's commitment to sustained public sensitization to attract more participants. The headmaster, Michael Achiankumi, who was grateful for the donation, however, appealed for additional birds in the next phase of the program.
We are going to meet with the various beneficiaries and the entire community at large, and then tell them that this flagship program has come to stay.
Rama Smith brought us that report from the Western North region. And that's it for the midday news here on 3FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice Adu. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. Log on to shrinews.com for more news. Coming up shortly is Business Daily with Michael Obudu.
Hello there, good afternoon and welcome to Business Daily here on 3FM 92.7. Coming up, Bank of Ghana tightens conditions for financing distressed businesses as Governor orders banks to cut bad loans to 10% by end of 2026 to safeguard financial stability. And Citi sleeps modestly in interbank market despite BOG Forex support. Plus, energy analyst observes that Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, faces 14 billion cedis operating deficit as huge cash inflows fail to support and stop losses.
Whether it is government interference to say it is, all everybody is saying is that let's look at the way forward.
I am Michael Obodu. Details of these and many other stories lined up for you. Please stay tuned. Thank you so much for your time. Straight into our top story. And the governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Esiama, has directed banks to tighten credit access for distressed businesses, insisting that only commercially viable firms with credible restructuring plans should qualify for post-commencement financing under Ghana's insolvency laws. He says while the banking sector is now stronger, lenders must reduce their non-performing loan ratio from 16.1% to not more than 10% by the end of December 2026, warning that that business rescue should never be used to conceal bad loans or weaken prudential standards aimed at protecting depositors and maintaining financial stability. We'll bring you that report shortly, but away from that, meanwhile, the president of the Chartered Institute of Restructuring and Insolvency Practitioners, Beatrice Adu, is calling for the establishment of dedicated bankruptcy courts to fast-track corporate restructuring and insolvency cases. He says specialized courts would speed up business rescue processes, improve confidence among lenders and investors, and ensure financially distressed but viable businesses are given a timely opportunity to recover rather than collapse under prolonged legal proceedings. Let's bring you some more stories now, and the Ghana cedi has recorded modest losses against the major foreign currencies in the interbank market over the past 2 weeks, despite continued support from the Bank of Ghana. A new report by Databank Research says the local currency remains relatively stable in the retail market, but could face mild pressure in the weeks ahead. The following report has more.
The cedi weakened by 0.47% against the US dollar in the interbank market over the review period. It also lost 1.36% against the British pound and 1.58% against the euro. The currency closed at average interbank rate of 11 cedis 69 pesos to the dollar, 15 cedis 74 pesos to the pound, and 13 cedis 46 pesos to the euro. Retail market activity remained subdued, with the cedi slipping by 0.1%. Retail market activity remained subdued, with the cedi slipping by 0.21% against the dollar to trade at 12 cedis 13 pesos. The pound and euro remained largely unchanged. On a month-on-month basis, the cedi depreciated by 2.91% against the US dollar in July, despite the Bank of Ghana interjecting an estimated $1 billion into the forex exchange market. Data Bank Research says the currency's performance was broadly in line with expectations.
And that was a 3 Business News Desk report. Now, fresh financial revelations have raised critical questions about the management and sustainability of the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, highlighting severe underlying losses despite massive cash infusions. According to financial figures detailing the power distributor's performance, ECG secured over 34 billion cedis in fresh capital, driven by 21.9 billion cedis in long-term borrowings and an unexpected windfall of 12.1 billion cedis. Energy analyst Kojo Poku notes that beyond internal balance sheet troubles,
broader issues within the electricity value chain continue to constrain public resources.
ECG lost 8 billion the previous year. So if you're a company that has gained 12.1 billion in excess money, which is money that you didn't think you get, right? Then you see that they put something called long-term borrowing, 21.9 billion. You add 29.9 billion, which is their long-term borrowing, plus the new money that came in, which is the 12.1 billion. ECG alone got over 34 billion in fresh money coming to the company. Meanwhile, they ended up with an operating loss of 14 billion. 14 billion operating loss. Now, when you deduct the forex gain from their operating loss, then they will say, oh, we made a loss of 2 billion. No, your loss is 14 billion. Look, the company is challenged. Whether it is government interference, whether a problem somebody wants to say it is, all everybody is saying is that let's look at the way forward. When we are calculating electricity, we add gas in the calculation of electricity. And when we are sharing, it doesn't get to the point where we pay for the gas. So the Minister of Finance has to find money from our taxes to pay for the gas.
So you heard the energy analyst Kojo Poku speaking. The National Petroleum Authority, NPA, has announced revised ex-pump price floors for petroleum products for the first pricing window of August. The new rate takes effect from August 4 to August 15, 2026. This report has the details.
The NPAs initially raised diesel by 18.3% to 16 cedis 97 pesos per litre, while petroleum was increased by 9.4% to 14 cedis 53 pesos per litre, and LPG floors price rose by 8.5% to 11 cedis 06 pesos per kilogram for the August 1 pricing window. Under the new review, petrol will sell at a minimum of 14 cedis 53 pesos per litre, while diesel has been pegged at 14 cedis 97 pesos per litre. Liquefied petroleum gas (LPG) is set at 11 cedis 6 pesos per kilogram. Other products also saw adjustment. Marine gas oil for local use is now 16 cedis 8 pesos per litre, and kerosene has a minimum price of 14 cedis 46 pesos per litre. In a notice issued on August 3, the NPA directed all oil marketing companies and LPG marketing companies to comply with the revised floors during this pricing window. The authority clarified that these are only benchmarks minimums. They do not include premiums charged by international oil trading companies or the margins for bulk importers, marketers, and dealers. Those costs will still be set independently in line with the petroleum products pricing guidelines. According to the NPA,